a vision in your head. You think you found the strategy to keep you in the black, not red. You ran a little back test and the line went to the moon. You're picking out a Lambo, you'll be quitting very soon. But wait, is that a fluke? Did you get juked? Did your dreams of mansions die and your money get cooked? So stop the guess and stop the stress and put it to the test with the 0-day mark. Who's better than the rest? Every Tuesday morning, 10:30 is the time to see if your good idea is actually worth a dime. It's option Omega, bridge the gap, find the edge, and step away from the financial margin call edge.
0-day mark's better than the rest. 1-day mark's better than the rest. 2-day mark. I got to fix that damn video. Multi-strat mark's better than the rest. I'll get that in there. Apologies. Listen, everybody. Welcome, Mark. We're just talking. Warm Florida's back. Cold Florida's dead. Thanks be to getting, like, we need Florida to be what it is, which is just a warm swamp.
Yeah.
And go from there. So on that note, boys and girls, listen, I've got some exciting things to tell you today. Like the days of old when we were in school and your teacher's sick and the substitute comes in, but the substitute doesn't have like any really, they just want to entertain you. I just want to entertain you today. Mark put out a video a couple days ago. That's a great video. And I want to play it. We're just going to play it live here. And I hope this works, but we'll see what happens. So I'm going to play it and then we're going to talk about it. Okay. So here we go. Let me do this. And Mark, tell me if you can hear this here.
Look amazing.
Yep.
Right up
Okay.
until you trade them with real money. Today, I'll show you the simple system used to make backtests behave more like the future and less like a pretty lie. I'm Mark Anderson, former construction worker turned 0DT hedge fund manager. I trade for a living and I've broken plenty of perfect backtest. This is the practical checklist I wish I had earlier, as your strategy doesn't die in the moment the market speeds up. We'll keep this simple with 3 stages. 1, design it right so you're not sneaking future into the past. 2, test it right so you see the real costs, slippage, and stress. And 3, prove it right with out-of-sample data and what-if checks. Stick around to the end and I'll give you my go-to green light signal before I start trading anything live. Design, test, and prove it. Stage 1, we got to design the test right. Don't bake in fantasy. Start with one sentence. I think X edge exists because Y, and I'll measure it using Z. Example, I think SPX premium decays fast on calm mornings. I'll test selling 0DT credit spreads after an overnight gap down when the implied volatility has increased. Pick the exact instrument and time frame first, intraday options, use 1-minute or 5-minute bars for a trigger, and the options chain data for actual fills. Keep the features as simple as possible. If the edge dies when you remove your fancy indicator, it wasn't an edge, it was decoration. Only use the information that would have existed at the time of decision. That means point-in-time prices in Greeks. Buying an option before an earnings release or economic data release must be excluded because you did not have that data before the trade. Garbage in, garbage out. Cross-check your data sources for wide bid-ask spreads. Run heat maps for that indicator you're using so it shows that it works when market is up 0.1%, 0.3%, or 0.5%, not just 0.16%. If you're getting your signal from Options Omega, cross-check that with an indicator from TradingView. Once you have ran your test through many iterations of data to ensure it's clear, leave a 1 to 2% margin of error for the entry data so that your results will be robust in the future. Stage 2, test it right. Make it feel like the tape is real and you have rules to follow, instead of just a stubborn robot. You want to enter a put credit spread between 9:35 and 10:15 when the implied volatility rank is below 20 and the 5-minute ATR is falling and the price is above the VWAP. Your exit condition may be take a 50% profit of the credit sold on the time-based entry at 3:45 or stop at a 2x stop loss. Your sizing. We have a fixed transaction or vol scaled size for one position. We never want to risk more than, let's say, 0.5% of our account or 1% of our account per trade. Personally, I like to use an R multiple, meaning that one R would be a $1,000 loss. The fills won't be perfect, so you need to model your commission, exchange fees, clearing fees, and most important, slippage. This grows as speed of markets widen. Wider slippage, bigger orders, more slippage. If your curve only works with fantasy fills, it won't work in real life. We need to be aware of how modest our slippage assumptions are. If we're using a delta-based trade, as the market gets more volatile, you will experience more slippage and higher volatility. That means you need to build that into your backtest. You need to run your backtest through different regimes: calm markets, trending markets, chop markets, and shock scenarios. A good system should survive all four, even if it shines only in one. Ignore the annualized return. That's just for bragging. Focus on these things: max drawdown and drawdown length. Can you emotionally sit through the length of that drawdown? I will not trade anything that sits in drawdown for over 6 months. Profit factor and win to loss distribution. Is the risk to reward reasonable? So if you get a much longer losing streak than in the backtest, you can still recover in under 6 months. What's your trade frequency or the time in the market? The more frequent the trade occurs and the less time frame going back in time we need to have conviction in that trade for our data set. What is the risk adjusted metrics like Sortino ratio or Sharpe ratio? I like these because it takes into account the standard deviations of returns, not just one single worst day like in max drawdown. Stage 3, you need to prove it right. Kill overfit because it will eventually kill you. Instead of optimizing on the whole history, do walk forward analysis. Pick parameters on a past window, then roll that window forward and trade out of sample data for in sample data and repeat. You want to be okay at everything, not perfect parameters that are amazing in one spot. Nudge the knobs, and if shifting the look back from 18 to 20 months in performance changes the robustness, we see that that's a problem. You want to randomize your trade order and reshuffle the sample with replacement. You also want to think of the 1,000 different times the distribution could have changed with a Monte Carlo analysis in terms of drawdown. What are the potential chances that you'll realize a 20% drawdown in the range of returns? If the bad luck hits you at the worst time, can you stay solvent? You're closer to your real risk is less than 1%, you should be safe. These are important questions you need to answer before going live and trading. Keep 10 to 20% of the most recent data untouched and walk forward. If the live slice craters your performance, this is something you need to pay attention to. Paper trade it forward to understand what it looks like for a bit before you check the plumbing, the exits, and the quotes. My tip is to walk forward with a 1/8 analysis. So for every period you have out of sample, you have 8 periods in sample. This would look like a 24-month look back with 3 months out of sample. I only consider going live if all 3 of these trades are applicable. 1, walk forward and out of sample are within shouting distance of in-sample data. They match the prior Sharpe ratio within a 25% probability. 2, sensitivity shows a plateau of acceptable parameters. The standard deviation of returns maintains consistency over time of all the period. In 3, Monte Carlo analysis says my worst realistic path is survivable in the Monte Carlo max drawdown around 3 of the worst performances on the backtest. And 4, cost of slippage are baked in, and I even worsen the actual slippage by 10 to 20% of what I've experienced in real life to make sure my test is robust. And 5, the strategy still makes sense in plain English. There's a human, understandable reason that the edge should exist. Think of a backtest like training for a mountain or type of hike. Design it right, wear the right boots, don't pretend like the mountain is flat. Test it right, train with a weighted pack, fees, commissions, and slippage, and then prove it right. Try it in a training in different types of weathers, walk forward analysis, sensitivity, and Monte Carlo analysis. If only one practice on the treadmill and then you get to the real mountain, it'll beat you. If I were starting from scratch this week, I'd pick one clear hypothesis and code the dumbest possible version of that first. Then I would add cost, slippage, commissions, and fees early. Don't save it for later. Then I would run a mini walk forward and Monte Carlo analysis before I chase any optimization. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you use as your checklist before running a backtest live. Next video, I'll show you how I model slippage for fast markets without level 2 data. Subscribe if you want to see that. I'll see you guys next time.
I love asking a guy who just recorded video to comment on video after making himself watch it. But what's your takeaways from that guy, Mark?
I mean, after watching it, I think someone actually commented in it when he's like, you go over stuff too fast. Each of these videos could have been like a separately half hour. And it's like, that is a very quick synopsis of how to like do a portfolio analysis and decide what you want to run. But there's obviously like an entire model you build out, an entire book you read on how to make good assumptions. And then you apply that to everything. And you also have to get creative from a theoretical sense of how things go together and how they potentially break. Like being just a numbers person is like not really a good solution. Like we've seen that didn't work in long-term capital management in 99 and banks in 2020. So like the creativity of being a human to like understand how things break, I think a lot of people miss also. I'll kind of leave it up to you for more comments and whatever, because most people will misunderstand kind of what goes on in a video like that. And it's a iterative process that you go through yourself on really what you want to run. And I'm frankly still learning stuff day by day. And this is what I would encourage everyone else to do. But it's like, when I first started out, I learned a lot from people on YouTube. Then I learned a lot from people in Discords. And then I got in groups on Discords. And then now some like Wall Street veteran that allocates hundreds of millions of dollars interviews me. And I'm like, oh, since I didn't work at Millennium, I don't really know how to look at a portfolio at a certain level. So like there's just an exponential amounts of level to this, and mastery is not really doing from the hard stuff, but understanding each simpler iteration at a faster level to where you can just kind of go or no go.
Yeah, there's, as the kids say, there's levels to the game. And Mr. Flawless question, can OO run Monte Carlo simulations? Trade blocks can. And so you can plug it into trade blocks, open source kind of platform built on that. And my favorite part of that was basically, it's something that we've looked through. If you've gone through the first couple of weeks where we just kind of like tear down back tests, the idea of saying, start with a hypothesis and build out a system of the dumbest version of that hypothesis, the most simple, dumb version of that hypothesis is a great starting point. And you get into that, applying it to filters. So you think about it in the terms of like a back test. Start with just the premise of running it as much as possible without any filtering, without anything like that. Start with that process, right? And what we're going to do next week, I wanted to show that video because basically what we're going to do next week is we're going to look at a test, and we're going to do this. We're going to do it together and build out a hypothesis, and maybe from start to finish, show you what a set of back tests might look like based on that hypothesis. How's that sound, Mark? Is that all right with you?
Yeah, I think we look at MEIC just because that's what everyone does.
Ooh, okay.
We kind of just get the most basic assumptions around what that is and why it works. But I think, for example, that is a very misunderstood strategy because it's so easy to like initially understand it. But I kind of almost relate MEIC to kind of like a momentum trade. So like everyone's like buy the index, hold. So it's like, okay, momentum can go very long periods of times with basically not working well. But in general, momentum gets the same returns as buy and hold with half the drawdown. So it's like, that's kind of what MEIC is. And I'm also trying to like get people to start thinking about trading some options in terms of risk premium. So like MEIC is no edge, no nothing, whatever. It's alternative risk premium. It's an alternative beta. Trading MEIC is like buying a managed futures ETF. Like that's about it. Like you're taking on the risk premium of terrible execution and paying an astronomical amount of commission, slippage, and fees to the broker that eats about 50% of your profit. So like that's essentially the entire risk premium in it. And coming from it from that point is like it's an automated buy and hold is just a much better way to go after it, where it's like I can promise you, you cannot farm alpha by picking 2:07 p.m. to trade a 12 lot or something because it worked in the past. It's essentially just noise.
And this is a conversation. Yeah, I would love to do MEIC, and I'll have to rely on you because I'm not an MEIC trader for some of the reasons you mentioned. But I think that the idea, I mean, we've been talking a lot about this through the years. Like the options are interesting. So when you're talking about backtesting in general, People want to treat options like it has the execution speed of futures, and that is not true. And if you try to go down that route, you are a dead person. And so, that's a starting point.
Yeah, the other thing too with options is like, especially in zero DT, I don't think people even remotely grasp how astronomical the slippage and win cost is. That it's like you basically cannot manage an SPX option in zero DT. Like you have to go stop or expiration because the commissions and fees are just astronomical as part of your expected value. So most like, I don't know what's called, if we're saying like holding MEIC for an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours is medium turn, like there's no such thing as really like a fast turn SPX option strategy that you're holding for like an hour, or you can close early, or anything along those lines. But like the fact that volatility is, overstated over time, that could be 6 months, that could be 9 months, that could be 12 months, and it all generally comes in one period. And the fact that you're taking on like the execution risk on the other side of a stop loss, obviously there's positive expected value or risk premium in that, similar to holding equities. But like it getting leverage, it's like I haven't really seen people have like a huge amount of success with MEIC unless they're using no stop, and eventually it gets them.
I think that's the key. And yeah, there's so much to talk about, because that's part of the thing with SPX structure in general. Option structure is when you try to trade it like a future, you're actually missing out on some of like the most powerful aspects of it, as far as the other Greeks besides theta or delta, and so lots to talk about, but that's the plan, everyone. We're going to start next week and kind of build out a series of tests and see how this kind of the theory of backtesting that Mark just presented, how it plays out in real life. So that's what we're going to do. And then we'll return to looking at backtest together a bit, but hopefully that this will help you as you submit backtests. So Mark, I'm looking forward to it. Off to the next meeting. It's just meeting day, but I appreciate you, man.